Velasco, and thank you for reading.
Manny Pacquiao, the goal,
I don't think there'll be a problem for Manny.
has its share of great fights. But every once in a while, human mind can also be controlled and muscle. Again, happens in nothing.
Only here on Para sa Bayan.
And that's the opening bell for Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. Mabuhay Pilipinas! Welcome world! I'm Nisi Casiano.
And I am Dennis Principe, and Bill Velasco will join us later on in the show.
This new genre of novelty boxing matches has been one of the most popular things in combat sports over the past year. But many felt that it crossed the line over the weekend when Evander Holyfield fought former UFC star Vitor Belfort. Maraming red flags sa laban na ito. Una, Holyfield was allowed to compete in an exhibition bout. Pero may deception na nangyari sa laban na ito, to be clear. The gloves were 10 ounces and it was scored like an actual pro bout, but it was supposed to be an exhibition. Second, the event looked like a political campaign with the involvement of former US President Donald Trump. He even did commentary with UFC fighters Junior Dos Santos and Jorge Masvidal. Going back to Holyfield, it was hard to watch. Chief Dennis, naramdaman mo ba na boxing got disrespected big time because of this thriller event?
It was really painful, and the most painful thing to watch, Nisi, is that one of the icons of the sport, ang in a way nag-contribute pa dun sa disrespect na binabanggit mo sa sport ng boxing. And we were talking about it, si Boyet the last time out, Evander Holyfield being part of this exhibition match, remember tayo, pinag-usapan din natin, we have nothing against exhibition bouts, but the thing is, hindi naman kinakailangan na mga icons and mga legends sa katulad ni Evander Holyfield would make themselves available dun sa embarrassment. It was really a total embarrassment, and instead of them contributing sa growth ng sports, lalo na ngayon, hindi lang MMA ang kalaban nila in terms of popularity. Lumalabas pati itong mga exhibition matches. It's turning out to be a solid threat sa sport na boxing. So imbis na nakatulong, napapasama pa because of the likes of Evander Holyfield and God forbids, pati sina Riddick Bowe. And even James Buster Douglas, naririnig din natin na may balak din at willing din na sumali dito sa sinasabing circus na to.
Well, nabanggit mo na nga na another kind itong ang exhibition fights, Pero the promoters of these novelty fights are capitalizing on certain loopholes in the rules and regulations, including guidelines of athletic commissions in the United States. And with what happened over the weekend, do you think governing bodies should start regulating this? Remember, it's all fun and games until something terrible happens, and tapos ang masama doon, ang masama kapag may nangyari, ay ang madidemonize is the sport of boxing.
The problem with boxing is that kung titignan natin, wala talaga silang hindi sakop nung scope ng kanilang responsibilities, because yung kanilang nabanggit mo nga iniikutan nila yung rules and laws pertaining to the sport of boxing by using the word exhibition. So if it's an exhibition match, yung boxing it has its own rules dun sa mga actual and sanctioned fights. The funny thing is, parang lahat babagsak pa to kung meron man dun sa side of entertainment. And when you talk of entertainment, very lax and very hindi masasabing serious yung mga penalties and rules regarding sa entertainment. So, well, probably, no? Baka lumabas pa nito, magkaroon ng panibagong law. No? Remember, ang boxing, we had the Muhammad Ali Act, which later on became a law. Ano? Particularly prohibiting managers from becoming promoters and vice versa. No? So, hindi ko lang alam kung anong klaseng law or ruling or act ang pwede. No? Probably the Three Stooges Act. Pwede muna nang sumulan sa ganun because it's really turning out to be a joke and it's a very bad joke.
Obviously, there's money to be made. And businessmen like Ryan Kavanaugh are milking it dry. Do you agree with the proposition of Teddy Atlas to impose 2% tax on events like this one and put it into a fund for retired fighters? And do you think that's enough for the damage that it incurred?
I don't agree with Tony Atlas with all due respect. Kasi unang-una, the real issue is hindi yung income, hindi yung pera, no, that is coming in, no, o kung whoever pockets are involved, no, or bank accounts that are involved. Hindi yun yung hindi yun yung kinakatakot natin. What we fear about really is the potential damage, no? And ang masama pa, no, it would lead to hindi na serious damage or serious injury, death. Because you're talking about a fight sports, a fight game, ano? The business of hurting one another, no?
And considering the mortality rate of boxing.
Yes. Mortality rate actually, studies will show na mas mababa pa ang boxing as compared sa mga jet ski, no, and some other sport, ano. It's for the longest time while maraming mga serious injuries and deaths, no, na nangyayari sa boxing, it is still being controlled fairly, no. Ibig sabihin, hindi yun talagang kinakatakot ng lahat, no, na parang easily you will die or you'll get maimed. No? Hindi naman. It's just that, yun nga, we're talking of, masakit sabihin old people, no? Who are icons of the sport, no? Na talagang way past, hindi lang way past their primes, no? Hindi talagang, dapat na nag-enjoy na lang, no? Nung kanilang success. It's not about the money, it's not about the income, it's all about how to protect, no, itong ating mga treasures, ano. Can you imagine, ano, bubugbugin mo yung the likes of Holyfield, Tyson, Buster Douglas, Oscar De La Hoya na tinitingala for the longest time, no? And they will end up like that, ano, being embarrassed sa harap ng maraming tao.
The Holyfield versus Belfort kind of served as an eye-opener, but still you have a long list of exhibition fights in the coming months. Now we have the Ja Rule versus Fat Joe, Ponce de Leon versus Marco Antonio Barrera, Lamar Odom versus Riddick Bowe, and ito nga, James Toney versus Jeremy Williams. Pero ikaw, Dennis, medyo matatagalan pa ba bago matigil ang lahat ng ito? To me, it's just another case of sports fad. It will eventually die down, pero para sa'yo?
You know, the sad part is that our own legends of the sport mukhang hindi pa pipigil. I really hope and pray that I'm wrong, but apparently parang kailangan pa may magbuwis ng buhay for this shenanigans to stop. Again, I have nothing against exhibition fights for as long as you're talking of mga crossover athletes who are, no, talagang nasa prime nila, no? Say a prime football player against a prime boxer, okay lang yan, ano? Because you're talking of their physical and mental readiness and toughness, ano? Nasa prime yan, ano? But we're talking of mga seniors, ano? Yun ang nakakalungkot dito. So, yun nga, it may come to that point, ano? Kailangan pa natin magkaroon ng serious injury, no, at magmukhang kawawa, no, before pa talaga matigil ito, no. Again, it's okay to have exhibition fights, but it has to be among prime athletes.
The digital age has been upon us for a long time already, but it seems that it has finally caught on with Philippine boxing. Many boxers are now utilizing the video sharing platform YouTube, reaching a far wider audience to market their brand as well as feel the pulse of the local boxing community. Dennis, matagal na yung YouTube. I believe the advent of boxing content on YouTube started in the late 2000s. Around 2007, 2008, makasabay nung talagang Senator Manny Pacquiao was fighting Juan Manuel Marquez, de Barreras, de Morales. From there, it just took off In the States, matagal na siyang ginagawang platform ng maraming fighters, not just in boxing, but when the YouTube monetization became known to the public, ito na, mas maraming na nagka-interest. With that said, tingin mo ba na late na na-realize ng ilang boksingero, particularly in this country, na, ay, pwede pala, ay, kikita ako dito, at hindi lang yon, ay, mapapalawa ko rin yung fanbase ko?
Hindi naman, easy, no? I think anytime simulan mo is the best time. Parang vaccine lang yan, no? Kung ano yung best vaccine na nandyan sa'yo, yun yung best vaccine, no? So, if you're a fighter, no, na nagsisimula pa lang, then it's the best time to start. And it will help actually, no? For any boxer for that matter. No? Because apart from the pag-monetize ng iyong YouTube channel, the most important thing really is you're able to market yourself and you're being you, no? Nakikita ka, nakikilala ka ng mga tao. Dapat ingat ka rin, ano? Hindi porket lumalabas ka diyan, hindi porket outspoken ka, hindi porket maraming bumabantay sa iyo, you have to realize, yung mga boxers, ang main source pa rin ninyo ng income are number one, your fight purses, and number two, yung mga sponsors ninyo. And mind you, sponsors are very, kumbaga, maingat sila. Siguro Tagalogin natin para natin mga basos. No? Mapili sila, maingat sila, kailangan yung produkto nila babagay, no, sa kanilang, yung boxer babagay dun sa produkto, no? Hindi porket world champion ka, automatic darating lahat left and right, sponsor, pipila. No. Kaya nga, alam mo, tumutulong tayo sa mga boxers right now, no? While you're starting, ibenta mo na yung sarili mo. Gawin mo na sarili mo marketable. Dahil, tignan mo most of our boxers naging world champion, masama loob. Bakit? Ba't di ako nilalapitan? Ba't di ako ini-sponsoran? World champion na ako. It doesn't work that way. Hindi ganon, mga kababayan ko, mga boksingero. Dapat meron kang marketing program, meron kang marketing kumbaga na diskarte, no, na may bebenta mo yung sarili mo. Kaya kayo nagtataka kahit nga hindi world champion, masikat pa doon sa world champion because may ginagawang tama, no? Crucial ang TV. Ito naman problema naman natin to sa mga promoters because promoters sila kasi it's the least of their concerns sa budget nila, yung TV. Para sa akin, it's the most important. Kailangan meron kang TV. Kailangan, example na natin, ito, sabihin, sinusuportahan natin yung Carl Harris Martin. Tignan mo yung record niya. Yung first 10 fights, nandun lahat sa Ifugao. Puro international championships yun. But he got nothing from those fights in terms of exposure. Lumaban siya rito, 10 fights above, no titles involved, no foreigners involved. It was an all-Filipino track na dinaanan niya for 2 years. Mas nakilala pa siya because of television. Each and every fight niya meron television. He's got his own YouTube channel. So crucial ang TV. Actually, in any way na makita ka ng mas maraming tao. And it just so happened na right now, mas maraming reach yung social media because on TV, you get to watch a show at a particular time.
Kasi noon, Chief, may limitation Ngayon, wala na. Ngayon, may ilan boxers who can freely express themselves in front of the camera. Like Janriel Casimero. May ilan pangang boxers na doon pa lang nagbebenta na ng laban nila. For example, Lito Dante and Samuel Salva. Pero may ilan nag-overboard eh. So what's your take on this?
Well, sa puntong yan, it's Janriel Casimiro na talaga. He's going overboard, you know. Before his latest antics, okay pa eh, no? Although medyo naging personal siya with Nonito Donaire Jr. dahil nasali asawa. Although par for the course na rin because Nonito's wife is actually the trainer of the boxer, di ba? So talaga madadali, madadamay. But for Janriel Casimiro to make fun of whatever situation na nandun si Freddie Roach, and yun nga yung kanyang pagkakaroon ng Parkinson's disease, is talagang foul, to say the least. Ano?
Below the belt.
Yun yung sinasabi natin. No? You have to be careful. No? Sasabihin mo. Hindi lang porket nagsasalita. Marami pa, no? I think Gab should do something about this. Ano, na total, karamihan ng mga boxers ngayon pumapasok sa YouTube channel, social media. Marami kayong dapat matutunan. Production, presentation, and everything. You know? Hindi yung basta nag-on ka ng video, may data ka, tapos na. No? Mas maganda, ma-maximize ninyo yung avenue. No? In this case, social media, para mas makilala kayo ng tao.
At least we got some good news in the world of boxing to end the week. Finally, Terence Crawford will be getting his first signature fight at 147 pounds. He is set to face Sean Porter on November 20 at the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas for the WBO welterweight title. In the welterweight division, Crawford is the odd man out sa kadahilanan most, if not all welterweights ay nasa poder ng PBC. Dennis, we know that this is a big one for Crawford. At least he will get some legitimate competition. Pero mas tama bang isipin na mas nakahinga na maluwag dito si Bob Arum dahil nagawan niya ng paraan to give Terence Crawford a caliber welterweight in his next fight?
Sean Porter is definitely a caliber welterweight. Lalo na last month nung nanalo si Yordenis Ugas kay Manny Pacquiao because I'm sure they will maximize, they will capitalize on that, no? By marketing itong si Sean Porter as the man who beat the man who beat the man. Di ba? Kasi siya tumalo kay Yordenis Ugas.
Yes,
diba? And alam naman natin si Ugas, sinalo niya si Manny Pacquiao. But all eyes will be on Terence Crawford. No? Not only yung mga regular boxing fans, but hindi ako nagkakamali, correct me if I'm wrong on this, yung business side of it. Because apparently, this fight is the last fight ni Terence Crawford kay Bob Arum. No? Parang he's up for re-renewal after this fight, no? So parang magiging ano ito, no? What they call, parang he'll be selling himself dito, no? Sa laban na to. The offers will depend on how he will perform. Even if he wins, kung dull fight ang mangyari against Sean Porter, bababa yung market value niya. But if he wins in spectacular fashion, and it's not that easy to knock Sean Porter out. No? Imagine if he knocks Sean Porter out, malaking bagay sa kanya yun. No? But yun nga, no? Depende sa magiging performance talaga ni Terence Crawford, and that could well be it may serve as parang pressure din, no? Kay Terence Crawford. So it's going to be a test of his character, of his skill, and a lot more. As far as Terence Crawford is concerned.
It seems like it's going to be a November to remember as Terence Crawford stakes his WBO welterweight title against Sean Porter. For our next segment, we turn it over to Bill Velasco, who will shed light on how bad boxing has gotten in recent weeks.
Thanks, Nisi and Dennis. You know, I'm a little worried about boxing. I don't recognize it anymore. This is not the boxing that I grew up on, I studied on, I read about. It's a completely different animal. Let's look back at some of the history of boxing and how it has evolved to what is supposed to be the safer, more professional sport that it was meant to be. Back in the day when boxing first started in the bare knuckles era, prior to that, it was a Roman way of torturing Christians that they had captured. You would fight each other with leather or metal gloves that had spikes and even poison on them, and you would only survive one fight. Then later on, with the rules of the Marquis of Queensberry, you had certain specifications. You had rounds, but then originally the first round would only end when somebody fell down or got knocked down. So sometimes one round could last an hour. There were no limits on the numbers of rounds. There were some fights that went for 70 rounds. And needless to say, the boxers there no longer survived. After that, they added weight division. So imagine, prior to that, you're fighting somebody who's 60, 70, 80 pounds heavier than you, and it was considered equal. Then there were 7 original weight divisions, which is during the time of the boxers that we recognized, Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, all these great names, particularly in the heavyweight division. Then they started adding more weight classes. There's now very little separation between the weights, a couple of pounds, one big meal. So gradually, more and more champions decided to have more and more championships. Then the number of boxing organizations multiplied. Back in the day, it was only the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF. The WBC was based in Mexico, WBA was based in the US, and IBF used to be based in Korea. Now there's an explosion of alphabet soup organizations, some of whom we barely even recognize, and some only a few years old. Then more and more, the rules became diluted and became corrupted, just to accommodate more and more fighters. The fighters became more important than the fights. The names became more important than the titles. In fact, even just 30 years ago, fights were still 15 rounds long until Duk Kim died after fighting Ray Boom Boom Mancini in what was really a lopsided fight, but he gave his all. His mother committed suicide after that, and the referee also decided that life was no longer worth living. After that, the WBC initiated the move to shorten fights to 12 rounds. But still, things kept on getting worse and worse for boxing. Then more and more celebrities started getting into boxing, and it became more of a show. Ali was fighting a real wrestler when he fought Antonio Inoki back in the early 70s. But of course, the rules were separate. Inoki could not really throw Ali down, and Ali could only use his gloves to hit Inoki, who spent most of the time on the canvas. What happened was it became a farce, and Ali just complained that he had bruises on his legs. But now, all the old rules are being thrown out the window. Triller promoted the fight between Vitor Belfort and Oscar De La Hoya, and all of a sudden, when De La Hoya came down with COVID, the weight didn't matter anymore. Evander Holyfield, a legitimate heavyweight who had last fought at the lower class, a lower weight division when he was an amateur, suddenly steps in what was supposed to be a light heavyweight fight. Needless to say, we all know what happened there. But it becomes encouraging to break the rules. It was even advertised as a legitimate sanctioned fight. Then, lo and behold, it was just an exhibition. How much worse is it going to get for boxing? Well, let me give you a hint. One championship is going to have a mixed rules fight. So MMA versus Thai boxing. The rules are going to be a compromised set of rules. Hopefully, this will be fair to both fighters who come from different disciplines. Not like when Floyd Mayweather Jr. fought in Japan against a very young, accomplished kickboxer who was not allowed to kick during the fight. I just don't know how bad things will get for boxing. But right now, I can tell you a lot of us who grew up on the sport, who are purists, don't like where it's heading. Back to you, Nisi and Dennis.
It's time for our Eastern Communications Fearless Forecast of the Day. On September 25th, Anthony Joshua will be returning to action against Alexander Usyk of Ukraine. The bout will take place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. 3 major world titles will be on the line in this matchup. Dennis, your fearless forecast on this fight that has a lot of serious implications when it comes to the future of the heavyweight division.
Well, I like Anthony Joshua in this fight, and I think he's going to win this fight because while unbeaten, si Usyk as a pro boxer, he has yet to meet someone in the caliber of Anthony Joshua. No? He had a good tactical fight against Tony Bellew, no? Pero I think it's not enough para magkaroon siya ng kumbaga chances, magandang chances against Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua is really very motivated for this fight, no? Not because of Usyk himself, but because of the big fights,
Yes.
or the big fight actually waiting for him in the near future, no? Dahil a couple of weeks later, maglalaban in a third fight,
Yeah.
si Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, no? Ang ganda yan. It's good versus evil, Good in Anthony Joshua, evil kung manalo si Deontay Wilder, and alam mo si Fury, pwedeng good, pwedeng evil, He's the
Anti-hero.
Undertaker of the sport of boxing. Si Undertaker, bida kontra bida, bida kontra bida. Ganun yung role ni ni Tyson Fury. So for this particular fight, I pick Anthony Joshua as the potential winner of this fight.
By decision, by knockout?
By knockout, tingin ko, because I see Usyk as quite slow, although meron siyang bounce, but I think the timing is not that smooth. Parang he's an awkward fighter. No? He's got power, of course, but I think the skill of Anthony Joshua would be too much for Usyk.
And that's our Eastern Communications Fearless Forecast of the Day. And that's the final bell for today's episode of Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. I'm Nisi Casiano.
At ako naman si Dennis Principe. Siyempre, don't forget, tayo po'y nasa Facebook Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. and on YouTube. Don't forget to like, follow, and lahat ng pwede nyo gawin sa YouTube. On demand kami, of course, after our live airing.
Bill Velasco, Attorney Ed Tolentino, and yours truly will be working the fights for you on Monday. So catch us on the next Round by Round. All boxing, all Filipino, all the time. See you.